This is a picture of my mum and a friend having a fun time, not quite sure what they're doing or what they're dressed up as. A picture of my mum and dad when they were courting in their younger days. And then a picture of me as a baby with my mum and dad. And then a few years later, this is my mum sitting at home. And a picture a few years ago of myself and my mum at my daughter's birthday party. My mum Mary was one of 7 children, and she lived in Paisley when she was young. When she was in her teens, she had rheumatic fever, which damaged one of her heart valves. So when she was about 22, she had an operation to repair that. But she recovered well from that, and she went on to be healthy for a good number of years. She married my dad and had 2 children, myself and my brother. And we both now have 2 children ourselves, so she's got 4 grandchildren, and she's very family orientated and likes to do things with them. Some of her brothers and sisters emigrated abroad, and over the years her and my dad have enjoyed taking holidays in Canada quite a few times, and even made it to Australia once. So as I say, she kept quite healthy over the years, and it was only really when she retired that her health started to deteriorate a bit more, and this led to her having another heart operation in 2015, where she had a mitral valve replacement operation. So the operation went well. It lasted about 4.5 hours, and she was sedated on the afternoon of that operation. So the following day, the hospital had contacted my dad just to see who was coming up to visit her that day, and he actually spoke to her on the phone, and she was saying some sort of mad, crazy things about bombs and things. So anyway, they went up to the hospital, and when they got up there again, the nursing staff spoke to them. My mum was quite agitated. I think there were 2 or 3 people holding her down on the bed, so she wasn't getting up out of the bed. And the family went in, and she calmed down a little bit, and they managed to sort of have a visit. The nursing staff spoke to them and did say to them at the time that it was quite probably delirium after the operation. And that was that day. So the next day when the family went up again, she was less agitated, but she was still saying these sort of crazy things like, there's a bomb under the bed, they're trying to kill me, and things like this, which were just totally out of character for her. So anyway, and she was kind of refusing to go back onto her warfarin medication, and she was sort of refusing to eat and drink. So the nursing staff were just keeping the family informed about how she was, and trying to encourage them to talk to her and get her to drink sort of water and kind of comply with what they were trying to get her to do. So the second day, as I say, the family went up again in the afternoon, and she was still quite agitated, but calmer than the day before. And then by the evening of the second day, she had gone from being quite agitated to being quite quiet, which is not really like her. My mum's usually quite chatty and quite outgoing. So she kind of went from being very agitated to being quite withdrawn. But by the time we went up the next day, the 3rd day after the operation, she seemed to be back to her normal self. She was sitting up in bed, she looked quite her normal self, she had her lipstick on, and she was chatting away to us. So it was quite a relief, because we had thought when she had this episode, we kind of thought, oh my goodness, how long is this going to last? Is she going to be okay? Will she come out of it and be fine, be her old usual self? But fortunately, by the 3rd day, the episode seemed to be over, and she did seem to be back to normal. Well, it was quite a scary experience for us all. I had heard the term delirium before, but had never really experienced it or come across it. So it was a bit scary, and we thought, how long is it going to last? Will my mum be okay after, will she come out of it and be back to her normal self? And I know for the rest of the family as well, my dad couldn't really understand it. He was telling her off for saying all these crazy mad things like, there's a bomb under my bed and they're trying to kill me and things like this. My daughter was telling him off for telling my mum off, sort of thing, because he just didn't understand it really. But the nurses were very good in telling us to try and get her to drink water and different things, and trying to eat. Fortunately, my mum came out of the episode of delirium within 2 or 3 days. But what surprised us was that she could actually remember all the things that she had said. We thought she would just have forgotten it or not had any memory of it, but she could remember all the sort of crazy things that she had said. And she felt a bit guilty. I think she thought, she was embarrassed by what she had said, but we kind of reassured her and just said, well, the nurses are used to dealing with that kind of thing and they're familiar with it, so don't feel guilty, just sort of get over it. The nursing staff at the hospital were very good. Every time we went up, they would talk to us before we went in to visit my mum and tell us how she was. And at the beginning she was refusing to kind of drink and she wasn't very interested in eating, so they encouraged us to try and encourage my mum to drink plenty of water and to pick off the menu what she would like for her meal. And quite early on the nurses had said to us that they were pretty sure that it was delirium that she was suffering from and that hopefully it wouldn't last too long and that she would come out of it. So that was quite reassuring. Also through my workplace I became aware of a leaflet on delirium, and it was very useful. It outlined the risk factors and it talked about the symptoms, and quite a lot of these were what my mum had experienced, and I took that leaflet home and let my mum and dad have a read through it as well, and I think it helped them to understand a wee bit better what had happened. It would have been quite useful if that leaflet had been available in the hospital at the time my mum had the episode, but I think it was published just a few months afterwards.